We would like to begin the meeting of the Precincting Committee of the Beaufort County Board of Voter Registration and Elections. We apologize for the technological difficulties that we experienced today, but nonetheless, we will move forward. I would like to officially call the meeting to order, and we will start by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America and to
the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. I'd like to sort of share screen at this time regarding the purpose of the meeting, and we may not be able to achieve all of these ambitious goals at this time, but at least we'd like to start. The purpose of this meeting today is to sort of identify which precincts will need changes or realignment based on the number of registered voters that exceed 1,500. Marie gave a very detailed report on yesterday that gave us a running start on identifying which precincts there are that we may need to look at. But we still need to establish some priorities within those given areas to decide where we will start, because it is a large volume of work. And we want to consider that there are several precincts that are slightly more than 1,500. And this shouldn't say 15,000, it should say 1,500.
1,500, okay.
And
I'm gonna close my door.
Yes. Change a little period here. Okay, that are manageable. I think that we have a few that are manageable, even though they may have a bit more than 1,500. So we want to just be practical and look at that as well. We also want to identify, and we have a chart that we were given on yesterday at the meeting, the location of those large precincts. And I would think that we would come up with a chart that would list each commissioner and which precincts fall under the guidance and the monitoring of those commissioners, so that we would know at what intervals we need to probably call that commissioner in to do some individualized work with the committee. But we would do that secondly. And as I indicated, that there were several precincts that need to be reviewed. And of course, we're gonna pair those with the commissioners. And just very briefly, Marie identified 18 precincts with 1,800 to 2,995 registered voters. And we also identified 14 precincts with 1,500 to 1,799 registered voters. I would think that we would be prudent and look at those that maybe are having problems in terms of allowing people to vote in a timely manner and just maybe prioritizing and making those first. And I ask that we all remember that all of our recommended changes need to go through our legislative delegation, and we are here to tackle a project, but not to have the final approval on a project. So it's very important that we work closely with our legislators during this process and be open, answer any questions that they may have, and just be willing to share information. We need to decide on the process and the procedure that may need to be utilized, whether we need to involve Ian. He is a resource that Beaufort County hires, and he has a vast amount of knowledge, so we need to probably schedule several meetings with Ian to work on designated precincts after we've outlined those. And most definitely, we need to involve all of our commissioners in this process. I would hope that later on during the meeting that Marie would outline some do's and don'ts relative to precinct realignment and probably some things that we need to just think about and keep in the forefront of our decision-making process, because I know you don't cut certain neighborhoods and houses in half. There are some definite do's and don'ts that we need to keep in mind. And I would think that we need to list those and have those in front of us as we make decisions. And finally, we need to decide on a time frame for getting the work done. Will this be never in my wildest imagination could it be done by the May 31st special election? State primary election on June 14th, I don't think so. But then there is a general election that's coming up November 8th. Should that be a target, or should we say sometimes during 2022 or early 2023? That's up for the committee to decide upon the approval of the entire board. So these are some of the things that I wanted to look at, and I can just kind of take notes right here as you make suggestions. Anybody want to lead us into identify precincts? I think this blue sheet that you got yesterday pretty much outline which ones need to be tackled. I am going to summarize those on one page if you want me to, and it will fall into these two categories. The 18 that have more than 1,800 and the 14 with 1,500 to 1,700 registered voters. And then those commissioners that have those, we will converse with them as to what they see as priorities.
If you would like, Beverly, I don't mind making the chart that lists all the precincts and the commissioners for you.
Wonderful.
When would you like that by? I'm good with due dates.
I would think just give yourself about 7 days to do that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Marie, can you sort of give us some pointers on some do's and don'ts? Because I think we need to outline this before we do anything, you know, to just kind of have that criteria in our forethoughts before we even proceed. Marie?
Let me just go back one step. So far, identifying the commissioners with the precincts, I think we have a list already that's been compiled for several years now. And if I'm not mistaken, Chris may have that. She can go ahead and send out to the board members, just as a reminder of the precincts that they have been assigned to. And so that may not need to be a project Jean need to take on, because I think it's already done.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay. And so far as do's and don'ts, of course, you mentioned earlier, Ms. Beverly, that when we start talking about splitting precincts or re-precincting a precinct, we have to keep in mind natural boundaries that would determine how you can actually split a precinct, because like you said, we can't split a precinct straight down a person's house. We have to use a street, some natural boundaries like a lake or some road, river. We have to use something to identify where to draw the lines, because we can't draw down half of the precinct to say this is where it's going to be. So that's going to take some maneuvering. And you are correct, Ian has been a resource that we've used over the years, and I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will be willing to work with us to help identify those natural boundaries that we can use to help resize these locations. One thing that we also need to consider is the time frame that you mentioned. If we try to do this without having a place to move these precincts to the newly developed precincts to, we're not going to be resolving any of our issues. Our issues will still be the same. Understand that one of the goals is to minimize the number of voters who are going to these precincts so that they will be able to get there, be able to find, decent parking and access the building and get out within a reasonable time frame without having to wait for any long period of time, which I think is everybody's goal. No one wants to go to the precinct on election day and stand in line 2 and 3 hours because we got 3,000 people reporting to the facility. And that has been a challenge in our county, and I'm not sure how to resolve that issue. The only thing I can think of is if we can solicit our legislators to maybe change the minimum amount of voters that's acceptable in a precinct from maybe the 1,500 to 2,500 or maybe even 3,000, because we don't have facilities to house them. And that's been a challenge. Right now, we just learned today that we will no longer be allowed to use a precinct on Hilton Head, a location on Hilton Head. And so now we are again looking for some place on Hilton Head to move these voters to.
You're
And
never going to be able to use it again?
they told us no, not no.
Wow. Okay.
What was the size of that? I'm just curious, what was the size of that particular precinct?
I'll tell you in a second. I'll look it up for you.
Okay, I could do that. I apologize. I could probably do that, but you know the identity, and I don't.
Yeah, it's Hilton Head 10, and they have 1,800 people in there.
Yeah.
Wow. So all of them are moving.
Yeah, we got to move the whole precinct.
Really? Wow.
So
that number, yeah, and that number is only going to go up, I suspect, as the voting age population goes up. Wow, that's crazy.
well, that's the northern part of the northern end of the island, and I think that's maybe one of the few areas that still have some development capabilities. So yeah, the possibility of it increasing from 18 to 20 is very possible. So Mr. Clifford, who is the board member that's assigned to this precinct, is aware of this, and he is already looking for a new facility now. So, and we will need to identify some place for these people to go because they will not be able to vote there in the upcoming June primaries. So, anyway, what we don't want to do is put ourselves in a box or in a bind where we set goals that we can't achieve, because whatever we do that's involving our voters, we have to give them ample time to know where their new polling place is and feel comfortable that they know where their new polling place is. And so right before a major election, I always advise, if we don't have to change a precinct or a location, let's not. Now, we know over the last couple of years, because of COVID, we were changing precincts 2 weeks before election. People were turning us down after they had said yes. And this is not ideal for any of us. So let's just keep that in mind as well when we start deciding on if we're trying to do this before the November election or the June primaries, or at least for sure, hopefully we can get all of this done before the 2024 election. But the legislative session will end sometime in May, and I'm not sure what that time is. It's usually like, I think, around the second week in May. But we would need to get whatever we are doing to them if we want to make this effective before the November election.
So let me, if I could, go back to the two categories: the 18 precincts and 14 precincts. I don't think. Thank you. 18 precincts with 8. So we have 1/3 of our precincts not in compliance with the law at the moment, right?
Yes.
Okay. Having said that, and marrying that to something that was covered, I don't know, it was last board meeting, Marie, but it might have been the last one, not yesterday, but the one before that talked about the dispersal of new cards, registration cards for everybody in the county. Well, you push that up against these 32 precincts, not to mention, I mean, we know that has to happen for 32 of our precincts, according to the law anyway, at this moment. Cards are going to be going out to people who may get a second round of cards. I mean, there's something that, that acts as a makeup call for those that are exceeding 1,500. I mean, it's a fact of life. We have to, if we're going to do that, that's 140-some thousand. Last time I checked, cards. Is that accurate?
Well, I didn't do the math.
Well, approximately. Don't hold into the difference.
But let's just think about this for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily have to send out cards when there are district changes. It's a good thing to do so people would know what their districts are, but we are not required to. We are required to send out cards, excuse me, when there is a polling location change.
Yeah, well, that's
one
clearly the case.
To another. We need to do that unless it's a temporary move. All we need to do is send some kind of notification. But for those precincts that are moving permanently, we do have to send out cards.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we know if we move Hilton Head 10 to where the place is, we will have to send out cards to at least 1,800 people.
Right.
Okay, you're saying you're not required to send out cards when precinct changes are moving permanently. When are you not required to send out cards?
I said when we are making district changes.
District
Oh,
changes.
okay.
Yeah, districts. Like we just
Precinct.
are doing now. We're making a lot of district changes, and some people are moving to new districts, but we don't necessarily have to send out cards. It would be a nice thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, you all can decide if you want to still do that. But that, again, will, of course, it's going to cost, and that's okay. We can send it now, and then when we make all the precinct changes in 2023, let's just say you decide to make all the location changes, we can send out cards again.
So is that accurate?
Yeah, and sometimes we don't necessarily, if there is not a precinct change, say some people are not moving, only for those people who are moving. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a county mail out, only for the ones that are affected by it. Mm-hmm. And like in this one, we have 47 precincts instead of 95 precincts. If you want to just send out new cards to the 47 precincts where there are district changes, that's a possibility.
Now, this makes it correct. Send out cards only to those affected.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Once all the information is updated in the system, That's a problem being worked on right now. Trying to get everybody updated.
Anything else, Marie?
Unless you have questions, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but maybe there are other questions.
What would be a good time for us to start? You said that once we get this in writing, the 18 precincts with registered voters, I guess we need to meet with those commissioners that fall. I would think we should start here, the 18. I would start with the 18 precincts. And you think maybe that's a good idea, Jim?
Yeah, that sounds. I think dealing with the raw numbers that we see as for registered voters, just add numbers to those because they're out there. They're going to be of voting age. They're going to encumber the spots in each of the precincts. They go from obviously from unregistered to registered, and that number is going to just keep going up, whether it's on the left-hand side of that equation or the second or the left-hand side, right or left. Yeah, I would think starting with the 18 precincts
Okay.
makes the most sense to me, Beverly.
Okay, so we're going to do that, and then I'll tackle that one. I'll go down
Okay.
the information that we have, and I'll do the
Mhm.
1800. Anybody wants to do, just for the sake of us being thorough,
Mhm.
anybody want to do the 14 in case somebody asks, like, why wasn't mine considered? Or
Mhm.
anybody
Right.
do? Jim, you
I
want to do?
can do that. Sure.
Okay.
I'll do that. I look at that and I say, yeah, I think I have two or three culprits, so I'll try to work with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have that at the next meeting when we meet.
Okay.
And
What you need to do too, if possible, is try to identify a place or location to move them to.
Oh, well, when you say that Hilton Head 10 is saying, no, we don't have any place to go away. We never saw you people, or whatever. Is that the same as Hilton Head 10? I mean, those people have to find some place to vote, and within reasonable distance, and which is another thing we're going to have to look at, I suspect, travel time, distances. But in terms of the precincts themselves, it would seem if we can't find if we come up against a precinct that says we no longer can or want to do this, your efforts to try to find places, which is, I understand, a 24/7 ordeal for you all. It really, one of those precincts is not even going to, one of the 18 precincts with 1,800 to 2995 isn't even going to exist. It goes away, right? But that's the only one that I can see that's going to go away.
The precinct doesn't go away.
No.
The polling location does.
Right.
So
right.
the precinct is not going to go away. This what you have in front of you are precincts that's established in our state laws. Okay, and so and that's why it's so important when we take it back to the legislators to authorize approval to change them. We need to tell them where those people are going to be voting, because that's also incorporated in the laws, is the polling location.
How many voting locations are there in Hilton Head 10 before they leave, before they say no?
How many people?
How many
Just
polling
one.
Locations? Just the one.
Yeah.
Just the one.
You
Okay.
mean, let me make sure I understand what you're talking about.
Okay.
The facility is Spanish Wells.
Okay.
At Spanish Well, Hilton Head 10 is the only precinct that votes.
Okay. I forget how many that is, but it's a lot of people. A lot of people.
If you think that's a whole lot of people,
Oh, I turned to Beverly Door as that statement is made. Yes.
Look at
Yeah,
New
that's all.
River. Look at the New
Boy.
River precinct.
Yikes.
Look at what?
New River.
Well, look,
Oh,
New
yeah,
River.
New River.
Precinct number 320.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, they're just Bluffton 4C. I mean, they're just, and we all understand, I think. Well, what I mean by that is that if one has been around any length of time and has been paying attention to these numbers that go up day by day, month by month, year by year, they don't follow any sort of election pattern. They just exist on their own. And that's, it's 3,000 some people who are being affected. I'm just throwing it out, approximate. And how we're going to find places just because we need places. It's going to be some interesting. Well, it depends on what kind of time frame we set for this. Also, obviously.
Well,
I don't know.
I just want you to know that we are always actively looking for polling places.
I understand.
We go riding on the weekends. I have staff every time they go riding on the weekend. They go to a particular area, especially the Bluffton area, to see what's new there, so that maybe that's a facility we can use. We always keep that question in the back of our heads when we are out in the community, trying to find some place to house our precincts. Willing to serve as a polling place. That's
New River precinct number that
everybody's not willing to serve.
Oh,
you just mentioned. What was the
New
New
River?
River precinct number that you just mentioned?
320.
320.
You want the number of registered voters.
Right.
The number of registered voters right now is 2995. No, 320 is the precinct number.
Right.
2995 is the number of registered voter. $2,995, not zero.
Okay, you said 2020. Okay. Let's see, number of registered voters.
No, you just made it bigger. Take one of those nines out and move the comma behind the two. There you
Bingo.
go.
Still a bunch.
That's a ton.
Okay.
That's too crazy. Explain to me how.
The good thing that this is a glimmer of good news with our new voting equipment, with the ability to scan, the ability to process voters quicker, the ability to use more than one check-in station helps the process move along quicker. So that's been for the last 2-3 elections, maybe I think now, at least 2, we were able to set up more than one registration table, which helps alleviate the lines and the time a voter would need to spend at the precinct.
I have a question. With all these new precincts that pop up, yes, I understand that some of them are just going to be a matter of adding another precinct to an already existing location. But ideally, we're going to have a whole bunch new locations, correct? Do we have the e-poll books and the equipment for that, or are we going to have to buy those once we figure out how many we need?
Yes, we may have 1 or 2 extras, and Vernon can probably speak to that better than I can, but eventually we're going to need additional equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, can this group decide, okay, if we are able to do the preliminary things that we need to do based on information that we already have, how often should we try to meet with Ian? And I was thinking after we have an initial meeting with him, then we would have several meetings with Ian to work on designated precincts, or is that something your staff does, Marie?
Well, we can get the preliminary information from Ian, and if we need, he can come to the committee and maybe go over how he did what he did. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we can put, broach that subject with him and see if he's got time, well, not with him, but through his department head, and see if they would have time to work on this project for us.
Okay, so what is our time frame? Let's just say within the next 2 weeks. Is that,
That's right.
enough time?
Oh, I can call him today. Well, depends on what time we get off the call. Oh, we only have one call for the meeting too. But definitely the first part of next week, if I don't get a hold of him today, I will make sure we put the request in.
I was thinking that, he would have a week to kind of put it on his calendar, and then we would be meeting with him hopefully
Yeah.
within 2 weeks. You think that's
I don't want to assume. I don't know his.
Yeah, I'm just
Find out.
projecting.
We
I'm just trying to.
Throw it out there.
We can shoot that for a goal. Again, that's another department, so I can't assume what's already been assigned to him. They've been great working with us so far, and I don't think that will change. But I'm sure they have to set priorities.
Right, and a time frame is just a frame within which you work. It's not saying that we will or will not be able to. It's just what we project as we would just try to do it within.
What I can do is I can send the request in and get a time frame from him and get back to the committee as to when he thinks that project could be
Okay.
addressed. I don't want to speak for another department.
Right.
Beverly, getting back for just a second to the notification of our fellow board members, those that are being affected by as the registered voting counts show. How do we want to handle that? Because I think information shared at this point is valuable for them and us. I mean, just to be able to say, hey, let me know what I have to do, or I'm planning to go to the moon for that period of time. We need to find out from our own people when would they be able to be pulled into meeting with our committee, and Ian and whomever off the staff is determined to be the appropriate number. So do we get to our folks quickly? Do we? What
I
do we
would
do?
think so, but we're probably going to need somebody to volunteer again. We've got our chairperson, and Jim, you and I are the only two committee members other than the chair. I think Mr. Wedgeworth is a committee member, as well as Aline, and she's not here. And I'm sort of writing. I'm deliberately writing on this sheet so that I can just shoot it out to, the
board.
people that didn't show up, and it just kind of serves as some notes.
You're doing a great job. That's going to be good for me moving on as we reference whenever you mention something, to have it there in black and white.
Good. Madam Chair, do you think maybe you could contact those commissioners from south of the Broad, since most of those really, really large precincts are down there, and sort of, kind of update them on this information that I volunteered for, the information that Jim volunteered for.
Yeah.
Let's give ourselves a week, Jim. Is that good?
Sure.
And then,
what exactly are you guys going to do with that information? Are you just trying to figure out which commissioners are affected by those, or any locations that are there? Yeah. Okay.
Right. And Marie said that she has a compiled list of what commissioners would fall within this category, 18 precincts, and what commissioners would fall within the 14 precincts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris,
I have a list of precincts. Excuse me, I have a list of board members, the precincts that are assigned to board members.
Okay.
That's what I have a list of.
So if you would get
What we
that
would
to
need to
us,
do is match those with the
Right.
information that you have.
Yeah,
we'll
and
put
Beverly,
it
Chris
right up
just
here.
sent that to us. I just got it in my email.
Okay. Commissioners with listed information. This should have been a third bullet rather than.
That's okay. We know.
Okay.
We know.
So Marie, you have this information, right?
Chris just sent it to you.
Okay, good. I'm just putting it down here because I'm not going to try to go back and get anything from this meeting. I mean, not right now. I don't want to lose the flow of the meeting. Okay, so Chris has already sent that.
So what I will do, Miss Beverly, is go ahead and put the number of registered voters with the board members and the precincts
Okay.
in a separate table.
Okay.
Good. That'd be good. Be helpful.
That'll help us. And then since we don't really know when Ian is going to be able to meet with us, when he meets with us, so we will have that information. So he will know, and the commissioners will know, out of the information provided to you as a commissioner, where would you like to start? Which precinct do you think you can move the metrics a little bit on? Do you think we should just let them decide, or should that be a committee decision?
I think it's a committee decision with a recommendation to the board.
Okay.
Just add one more. Can you add one more bullet about talking to the legislators about maybe changing that 1,500
Okay.
requirement as is, the way the law is? Because that's a part of the law. Anytime we go outside that, we could be violating, or we are violating. But it's
Okay, here it is. May consider asking legislators to change the law governing maximum number
okay.
of voters
Yeah.
per
Okay.
precinct. So do we want to take off may, or just consider, or just ask?
I say ask, because this need.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not just Beaufort County that experiencing this issue. It's being experienced across the state. I mean,
Maybe it's something
Right.
we add to the agenda when we meet with when we have the conversation with the legislators.
right.
Right, at the scare meeting, maybe we could do it at the scare meeting, and, we would have the support of other colleagues. That's not,
That wouldn't be at the scare unless scare
Mm-mm.
it as a priority.
Yes. Well, one of the things the legislative committee wanted to do was to have a dialogue with the legislators. Caroline did talk to Shannon Erickson, and Shannon Erickson said she'd be happy to get together some of the legislators and talk to us, but they wanted an agenda beforehand. So, and she was saying we could meet in maybe 3 weeks after all of the electoral bills hit the floor. And so that is something that we could ask within that committee to add it to the agenda to discuss with them.
Good idea.
okay, so discuss with legislators what?
The changing
Changing.
of the 1,500 maximum registered voter per precinct.
Isn't that what we?
She's got it up there already, but
Yeah.
this is going to be an agenda item that needs to go to Bernadette.
Recommended maximum per precinct. During the upcoming and others. Okay. So what's the date of that meeting, Jean?
The date has not been set yet.
Okay.
Jean, you muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
The date has not been set. There's just a time frame. Shannon said within maybe in 3 weeks or so, give or take. So that's kind of the time frame we're working with right now.
Okay. I kind of interrupted my sentence.
Just a technical point. Is there a time limit on this call?
No, but I like to always try to end within an hour. And
Well, no, I only raise it in case, Beverly, I was only raising it to make sure that if there is, we have
There
a
is
choice.
a time limit. We only schedule it for 1 hour.
1
1 hour.
hour.
Okay. Okay.
That's fine.
Yep.
I think we pretty much covered everything on the agenda, and Marie is going to notify us when Ian can meet with us. And I will give Marie probably a couple of dates that I will be out of town. I know one is the 26th. That's the 17th and the 26th are 2 dates that I cannot meet. But anyway, we will all agree. We will make it a time that we have consensus on this is convenient for the committee. So I just want to thank everybody for participating. If there's anything else we need to add to our notes, let me know. And
Good job, Beverly.
thank you so much. So we will be notifying you as to when the next meeting is going to be. We will be scheduling that around when Marie and Ian can meet with us. And after we've had also the opportunity to share with other commissioners the notes from today's meeting. So again, I want to thank you for coming, and I kind of like the Zoom platform. Perhaps next time if we could do that, that's easier for me. I know how to share the screen, using this platform, and I think it's an excellent way to take notes, and that we're all in consensus as to an agreement as to what has been said. Again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Beverly.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you.
See you all soon.
Again.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.